What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. If you don't know who I am, that means you're new. I'm Mark. What's good with y'all? Go check out my other videos. Check them out. Check them out. But first, stay on this one. This is going to be kind of an interesting video. You know, another little, I guess you could say, opinions on a caliber, whatever, however you want to phrase it. You know what I mean? I know I got a bunch of these videos, but this is kind of an interesting one. All right. So 410, is it a good round for self-defense? I'm going to get into it, and this is why it's a little interesting, of a video is, as you guys know, 410 is a shotgun round. However, there are also handguns that do shoot 410, like, for example, the Taurus Judge. So, with that being the case, we're going to get right into it. We're not going to beat around the bush. We're going to start with home defense. So, I will start this off by saying 410, I'm not a big fan of the round. Now, will that, have some sort of bias on my opinion on this? Yeah, sure. If you guys are huge rounds, if you guys are huge fans of the 410 round, go ahead, just make sure to understand that I am not the biggest fan. I'm not going to sit here and, act like it's the best fucking thing around, because it's really not, in my opinion. So, home defense, let's start it off. All right. One of the biggest cons about shotguns as a whole is the lack of capacity. Now, that's the thing, is that, as soon as I know I already hear the typing, because I said that, there are going to be the people who only use shotguns for home defense that are typing up. Yeah, well, what it doesn't have for capacity, it makes up for with stopping power, which is true. Yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is that, when you have, for example, like a 12 gauge, 10 gauge, whatever, you know what I mean? The stopping power that it comes with how high of a pressured round those are, and how powerful how powerful they are velocity wise. Yeah, I mean, you are going to do just fine. All right, you will be just fine. It will do the job with that little of a capacity. But that's where 410 comes into question, because it is a lower pressured round. It is not really the best man stopper. So you're taking what is one of the cons of a shotgun, that does have a pro to kind of help make up for it, and the con is lack of capacity. Making up for it is the stopping power. And then you're just taking away that pro from that con by having a lower pressured round. Now, that's honestly my thought on it, is that simply it's just not going to be the best in that situation. Now, I'm sure there are uses for the 410. I'm sure there are uses for 410 shotguns, or even the 410 round as a whole. However, I don't think that's going to be a very optimal use here. You know what I mean? With that low of a capacity and not really being too much of a man stopper, it can do the job. However, I wouldn't want to rely on it solely. All right. So, with that being said, I do want to sit here, because this is where the video gets kind of interesting. As I mentioned before, there are some handguns that do shoot 410. So, we're going to also talk about those in these situations. Home defense, let's say we're talking a Taurus Judge. Really, I'll be honest, any handgun that's shooting the 410 round, in my opinion, isn't truly an optimal defensive weapon. And here's why I say that. With 410 already being a lower pressured round as it is, as far as shotgun rounds are speaking, at least, we're speaking. With that being the case, that short of a barrel as well, taking away what velocity it does have, you really aren't left with too much as far as actually stopping somebody. Now, of course, there are different types of rounds you can use for it, just like there are for everything. You know what I mean? They're like, for example, you can use birdshot, buckshot, slugs, whatever you want. You know what I mean? That type of shit. However, with that short of a barrel, the velocity drop is going to be decently big. It's kind of a big deal there. So that's something that I do want everybody to remember. And then you also got to remember, there really aren't too many firearms that are chambered in 410 that have that great of a capacity, if any at all. So that's something that people need to remember, is that capacity you are going to be lacking no matter what platform you're on. All right. So just taking away the velocity it has by shortening the barrel down, I don't know. It doesn't sit right for me, considering I already don't think it's that optimal of a home defense round, even out of its standard shotgun length barrel. You see what I mean? So with that being the case, I think that about wraps it up for home defense. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. You know what I mean? It can do the job. It's not that it can't. It's just that it's definitely not the most optimal or the best even. So let's move on to concealed carry. This is where it also gets kind of interesting, is because with, for example, my 12 gauge video, we just had to skip right past concealed carry. Why? Because, well, most people aren't, and most people, if any, like none are carrying any form of fucking 12 gauges with them. You know what I mean? As their EDC. Who is EDCing a fucking 12 gauge, guys? Comment down below if you're every day carrying a 12 gauge. I want to do an experiment here. Come on. But some people do, as I said, own Taurus judges that, guns that are like that are chambered in 410 that you can conceal carry technically. So let's get into it. Now, one of the things that it kind of sucks about, the 410 round, but it's also kind of a pro beyond the fact that, it's not the highest pressured round, is the fact that it is still a shotgun round. Let's remember that, guys. It is still a shotgun round. So out of a handgun, the recoil is definitely going to be more noticeable. There is that. Out of a handgun, you're losing a good bit of velocity that the round was essentially designed for. It needs barrel length to burn all the gunpowder. Another thing you got to think about is that in a concealed carry situation, if you're not carrying slugs in that case, you were worrying about several projectiles. All right? Several. So with that being the case, and I know I didn't mention, oh yeah, well, what about, what kinds of ammo you use for home defense and, in the home defense scenario, mainly because you guys know your homes, all right? I'm not going to sit here and have to explain to each and every one of y'all that if you can get the fucking threat without having to shoot your fucking wall or shoot through your wall and possibly hurt somebody, then do it. Like, you see what I mean? If you can do that, then do it. You know what I mean? Obviously, I shouldn't have to explain that to you guys. It's you guys are not stupid, all right? Like, what's one of the rules of gun safety? Know your target and what's behind it, all right? Plain and simple, or beyond it, I guess, technically. However, all right, in a concealed carry situation, you are out and about. There are a lot more variables which lead to a lot more liabilities, all right? With that being the case, it's something you really have to consider on what kind of ammo you would want to carry for that situation. I would honestly rather recommend you carry slugs in that situation because you don't want to have to worry about other projectiles hitting other people that it doesn't need to. Now, of course, we're not talking, most people, they're not going to have birdshot in their 410 fucking handguns. However, you never know. All right. So that is something to point out, is you also might have to be dealing with multiple projectiles and you don't want to have a liability of hitting somebody else. You don't want to deal with none of that. You don't want to have to worry about damaging yours or someone else's property that you don't need to. So there is that. So it doesn't really make it the best for concealed carry, not to mention the lack of capacity already kind of, just takes away from it. So honestly, for concealed carry, while it can be useful, and by the way, I'm not even gonna sit here and touch on, oh yeah, well, what can the round do to stop somebody? Because I'll be honest, if you get hit with a slug, chances are it's not gonna make too much of a difference, really. A lot of people, if they get hit with really any shotgun rounds, a lot of people tend to be out of the fight. All right, so I will say that can be, especially in a situation where they're out and about, it's a little bit different in a home defense situation because they're in the home. You have to engage in this fight and make sure they are stopped immediately and not take any risks. However, concealed carry situation, most people, from what I've seen at least, most criminals, once they realize they're hit, they leave the fucking fight or they drop. That's really it. You know what I mean? Now, is that to sit here and say, oh yeah, well, you shouldn't be safe, always have extra ammo? No, always carry extra. Always, you guys know how I am about that. Have a good capacity, carry a spare mag, all that shit. So, back to what I was saying though, all right, concealed carry, it's not looking too good. It can do its job, but once again, that's a common theme you'll see. It can do its job, but is it the best? No, not really. So I'm going to give it a 5. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10 there. Now, we're going to go ahead and move on to Shit Hits the Fan. This is where I can kind of see it being a bit more useful, tiny bit more. 410 can be useful for hunting, for example, which is definitely going to be needed in Shit Hits the Fan. You got to be able to eat. We're not going to sit here and have fucking supermarket processed food here all the time. Everybody knows that. So you got to learn how to hunt. That can definitely be useful for that. Let me see here. And really, honestly, that's all I can think of. I'll be honest, for a Shit Hits the Fan, I can't think of it being super useful for anything else. Now, what I will say is in a true state of shit-hits-a-fan, meaning mass lawlessness, you're probably not going to have to worry about whether or not you hit other people unless they're your own people. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that there's that. So that takes away one of the cons, I guess, but that's only in a strictly shit-hits-a-fan state of mass lawlessness situation. That's really it. So for shit-hits-a-fan, it's getting a pretty shitty score here. I'm sorry to say it, but it's true. I will say, though, one thing that does help it is that 410, while not being as commonly available as like 12 gauge, is still a pretty widely available round. So there is that. It's not like you're going to have a lot of trouble finding it. However, it'll be around the same. Here's how I'd compare it, right? Let's compare 9mm to 12 gauge in the sense of availability. All right, it would be how 40 is to 9mm in that sense. You know what I mean? It is available. It's just not as available as 9mm. You know what I mean? Just like how 410, while still being decently available, is not as available as 12 gauge. So I hope that makes sense. You know what I mean? I hope I didn't just sit here and, make people think in their head, did he just try comparing 9mm to 12 gauge? No, nothing like that. I'm saying in the sense of availability. But with that being said, that about wraps it up for shit-hits-a-fan here. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. All right. And, as I said, it's not really the worst, but it's definitely not going to be the best in this situation. There's a lot better choices. Now, this honestly, I believe, is going to be the one situation where we see the 410 round shine. All right. And that is animal defense. And here's why I say that. While not being as high of a pressured round to stop a larger animal like a bear per se, what I will say is that it definitely has the capabilities to stop a medium-sized to small-sized animal, and it should do it without a fucking problem. I'm not going to lie. Now, as I said, it's not the highest pressured round. It's not the hardest hitting round. However, I would feel confident enough if I had a 410 and, a couple of wolves were coming at me and I saw them from like a good distance away. I would feel, confident and competent enough that everything will be fine. You know what I mean? Now, with that being said, would I want to sit here and have a fucking 410 if a bear is chasing me? Fuck no. Hell, if I could choose what gun I would have if a bear is chasing me, I would choose the most most obnoxiously powerful round possible. Excuse me. That would just blow straight through the bear. I wouldn't give a shit, personally. But that's not what we're talking about here. I can see it definitely being useful in the sense of, medium to smaller animals. It has enough power to it that it can do it. It's honestly, I think that would be perfect for it. As I mentioned before, it is decent for hunting. However, hunting is very different from animal defense, as we all know. If you're having to defend yourself from an animal, it is a simple matter of life or death. And while I say that 410 can do the job in a matter of life or death, I'm the person that I'd rather say, yeah, I know the job's done. You know what I mean? I know for a fact that threat is done. I'm going to be alive. So for animal defense, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I'm going to be nice, give it a 7 out of 10. If we're really trying to sit here and do the math, we're looking at like less than 5. You know what I mean? For the average, it's not doing too great. However, let me point this out once again, guys. These are my opinions. Do I know a lot about, all different types of ammo? I know a good bit about a good few different calibers. You know what I mean? I know more than the average Joe, obviously, which is who I tend to make these videos for is, the average person like me and you who, like guns and just want to learn a bit more and teach a bit more. So remember, guys, can 410 do the job? Yes, it can. Is it the best? Hell no. Hell no, it is not the best. Not by any standard. So, with that being said, y'all make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that bell. When you hit that bell, hit all. And because you agree with me, 410, yeah, it's it's a decently cool round. It can do the job. But I still, I would rather have 12 gauge than a fucking 410. Y'all make sure to check out all my other videos. Y'all make sure to stay legal, stay safe, stay dangerous. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.